And it was brutal, but it worked very, very well because after this treatment, they were not able to diagnose me with PTSD and my anxiety dropped dramatically. It was as if this weight lifted off my chest and it felt like I had my life back, truly. It was amazing. So hi everyone, my name is Maddie and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my 10-year therapy journey and why CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy did not work for me. So if you ever felt like you were doing therapy wrong or traditional methods just weren't clicking, this video is for you. And I want you to know that you're not broken and that sometimes it just takes a little time to figure out what works for you personally. So let's start with what CBT is. CBT is a second generational behavioral therapy and it focuses on identifying and changing your thoughts and patterns by challenging them with logic and finding evidence against them. And it's usually the first form of therapy that they try when you come in with mental health issues. So for example, your therapist help you with thoughts like I'm not good enough or everything always goes wrong, and then work with you to find evidence against them, helping you to develop a more balanced and realistic thinking pattern. And it's incredibly popular because it's structured, it's evidence-based, and for many people, it works. So before I was diagnosed with PTSD and BPD, I came in with depression. And this was also the first form of therapy that my therapist at the time wanted to try with me. And I really wanted this to work, but it just did not at all. And I want to be clear, this is my experience within the Dutch mental health system, so keep that in mind. So here are some reasons why it didn't work for me. The first one was that it felt like they were rushing to the CBT tools without really exploring the root cause, so exploring my thoughts, my underlying trauma, and my emotions. It felt a little bit like they said, well, here's a toolkit that you can use and now you should be able to fix yourself. And anytime I wanted to go deeper into my emotions and my past experiences, they were kind of dismissed. And I just began to feel like my emotions and thoughts were invalid and I kind of just build up more walls, but my emotions weren't wrong, they were just telling me something. So the second thing is that CBT works a lot with logic and your mind. And the thing is with trauma or PTSD that it isn't always logical. Sometimes you feel a certain way because of deep subconscious beliefs or experiences that happened before you even had the words for them. And it might not always be logical, but they are valid. So to just dismiss them and say that they're not valid and that I should change them, that didn't help for me. It just caused me to have more resistance towards them. So the third reason was that they would ask me to find evidence against my negative thoughts. But here's the thing, sometimes I didn't have evidence against them, at least not from my own life. And I had a lot of evidence to support the negative thoughts. So yeah, that didn't work for me at all. So looking back, I now understand that CBT probably didn't work for me because I had a lot of really heavy underlying trauma and PTSD that needed to be addressed first. So that's okay. And it doesn't mean that CBT is bad or that it doesn't work. It just wasn't right for me at the time. And I just wanted to share this so that other people don't think that there's something wrong with them if it doesn't work. So now I really wanted to share what did work for me in therapy, because there are so many other forms of therapy to explore. So here we go. So the first one was DBT, or Dialectical Behavioral Therapy. And I followed this method after I was diagnosed with BPD. And while it still didn't get to the root of everything, it gave me some foundational skills that I still use to this day. And it kind of was like learning emotional first aid for me. So the second one was EMDR and Exposure therapy. And in my case, my PTSD was so severe that they were able to refer me to a specialized trauma institute. And this was quite intense, and the days were very long. We're talking like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. for days on end, just focusing on intensive trauma work. And it was brutal, but it worked very, very well because after this treatment, they were not able to diagnose me with PTSD and my anxiety dropped dramatically. It was as if this weight lifted off my chest and it felt like I had my life back, truly. It was amazing. So the third one was working with a psychosocial therapist instead of a traditional one. And the main difference for me was that she wasn't clinical. She worked more holistically, in my opinion, and looked more at the bigger picture. And she actually helped me open up about this big underlying trauma that I had for the first time. And she did EMDR and Brainspotting with me to help me identify traumas that I didn't even know were there. And she actually referred me to this trauma institute. But I truly believe that my time with her allowed me to finish my trauma therapy successfully. And actually, she inspired me so much that I decided to go study again and become one myself. And the last one is ACT, or Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. So my psychosocial therapist might have used some tools already from this method, but I really got to know about ACT during my studies. And this is a third-generational behavioral therapy. And it incorporates a lot of mindfulness tools. But the most important thing about this method for me is that it taught me to open up towards my difficult experiences and to accept my difficult emotions instead of fighting them. And for the first time, I didn't feel wrong about the way I felt. And that alone released so much resistance from me and changed how I approach life. I'm sharing this because I want you to know that if traditional therapy or CBT doesn't work for you, that you are not the problem, and that it may take some time to find what works for you specifically, because therapy isn't a one-size-fits-all. And I'm really curious to know what worked for you in therapy, so let me know in the comments. And if you're interested, I'm planning on making a whole series about ACT, so hit the subscribe button if you want to learn more. And remember, your healing journey is valid, whatever path it takes.